shadow on the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are ghost hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mine. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are ghost hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real, real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarms setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mine. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are ghost hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are ghost hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys!
Hi, welcome everybody to PEMA TV.
Welcome to Friday. I can't tell you the date because I can't see the clock.
Oh,
there it is. December 20th, 2013. Wow, 5 more days.
5 more days till Christmas.
4 more shopping days.
And before anybody else makes any kind of rude comments in the chat room, yes, it will grow back. So don't worry about it.
He looks 12.
I don't look 12. I look 22.
He looks 12.
And I'm actually only 23, so that's all good. But with 5 days left, you better hurry and get over to
Metaluna Boutique and
Stones.com.
.com.
Would you like to explain to the people what that lovely piece of attire is that they're looking at?
That is a really cute peach and black dress.
Yeah.
It's like a mini skirt, but it's got the long back. It's really cute.
So head on over to MetallunaBoutiqueandStones.com.
And it's reasonable. It's not Dillard's $96 for a dress prices. It's $24.
And the shop is run by a witch.
Well, change the first letter. Yeah.
And don't forget, everybody, if you know anybody that has a radio show, we now have a radio page here on PEN. If they'd like to have another place to broadcast, tell them to get in touch with us. Things, they are changing. But tonight we are joined by a very good friend that we haven't talked to in about a year. We've seen him.
No, it was May when we were together up in...
I know, but interviewed on the show. It's been about a year.
If you say so.
Well, I mean, May, yeah, okay, in May, but I mean on PEMA TV. He's been on the network, it's not PEMA.
Yeah, he was on Yakking with the Yeti. Okay.
Yeah.
I will give you that.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that for us. We were all confused.
And he's in the Arctic cold, apparently. We're sitting at like 80 degrees today.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But we are joined tonight by one of the founders, is that correct, of the Spirit Lab. We are joined by David Rountree. David, what hasn't David
What is
done?
with that picture?
Well, I thought it would give a good, you want your guests, your viewers to get the full representation of your guest, and I wanted them to see from before coffee and after coffee.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was shooting for there. So, David, how are you?
He's still staring at that picture.
I think I'm okay. I've been kind of sick, but I got better. I'm trying not to cough up a hairball or anything. How are you guys? Gosh, I haven't seen you since like May.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, no, we've been doing fine.
We were at the Shanley, right?
Yeah, yep. that possibly active location there at the Shanley.
Yeah, slightly, possibly, almost, maybe, positively active. Yeah, I remember.
It could be there.
The one that would not let anybody escape.
Yeah, it was like the Hotel California.
It was. I mean,
we couldn't leave.
Right?
And it wasn't just like you. It was.
No, the porch had some kind of spell on it. You got out there and you sat on the porch and you just stayed.
Well, it wasn't even that. I mean, he took Patty to the airport. The airport
no one could leave. That's right.
The airport spit her back at us. So we take Jody to the airport. It spits him back at us.
God, I remember that.
Amy was supposed to leave that morning to go to work and wound up in the hospital and had to come back and couldn't leave for a week. You guys were leaving at noon, and at 2 a.m. the next morning, you're still there. Nobody could leave.
And we weren't flying out. We were driving. That tells you something right there.
It would not let anybody leave.
No, it was, that was the most peaceful, I think, show I've ever done in my life. I mean,
well, thank you.
It was very active, and we had a lot of activity, and I actually had a great time. Really, that was the first full tilt boogie field test of the EMF quadrilator, so that was really cool. But the whole atmosphere was just so laid back, and everybody it was like a big family gathering more than it was a convention. It was really kind of cool.
We had, at one point, 40 people in the Shanley, and everybody got along. There was no...
Yeah, it was very peaceful. I mean, seriously, there was no drama. There was no arguing. I mean, just everybody was like, it was like everybody was stoned,
Yeah, well,
hey, how are you, man?
There was a very minuscule, tiny teaspoonful of drama.
But that was not part of our event. That was someone who tried to come in.
And it got escorted to the door by me and Sal very quickly.
Right. That was a gate crasher. So
yeah.
That's right. That was not part of my crowd.
Yeah. A saboteur.
And then it didn't work.
Sacre bleu. Yeah, it did work.
Well, and the worst part is the only place the guy wanted to go was to David's bedroom.
That's something you got to think about.
I'm trying not to.
That was kind of strange.
It's very disturbing to me to think about.
That was the entire fight, the argument the whole night is he kept wanting to get into your bedroom, and I refused to let him.
I know, that was crazy.
Yeah. But before we talk the Shanley to death, there's a lot of stuff that happened for us there. I know I'm half Texan Italian, I think. The one thing I think I want everybody to be able to sure and take away from the experience that everybody had at the Shanley is that it speaks to the quality of the people and the character of the people that are involved in the paranormal, because there are a lot of conventions that are full of drama.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to speak right now to the fact that we didn't have, there just wasn't any of that there. And that just speaks to the quality of the people that were there. And if you're curious, you can type in Lower Cascos Paracon and you can go see who was there.
All of us.
Yeah, I mean, people just need to know that. It's about the character of the people that were involved.
And nobody walked away hungry.
No, that's for sure.
Oh no, God, I ate so much while I was there. I was just looking at my interview on Grayson's show prior to this. It was maybe a couple of months afterwards that we did that interview, and I was like a chunk, man, and it was all because of the food at the Shanley. I had this big like basketball in the front under my shirt. It was terrible.
Hey, how many events do you go to where they feed everybody there?
Oh, and fed way more than you can possibly eat and still have food left over. I mean, the food was great. I mean, it was great.
Kim's from Missouri. Kim's from
home cooking. Mm-hmm. It was good. I gained like 5 pounds over the entire weekend. Enough said. Took me 3 months to get back to normal. Okay.
Kim's from Missouri. Kim's from Missouri. They don't know anything about portion control in that state. Trust me.
Oh, I didn't have any problem with portion control either, so can't really say anything.
Hey, Grandma raised me. You got people coming in, you feed them, and you keep feeding them until they can't eat no more, and then you give them 3 more bites.
Well, that's what we did. We ate until we hurt, and we ate some more. So,
David, you know, a lot of people, and just so to catch up some of the viewers that may not be part of the Spirit Board or have been following what you and Paul Browning have been working on with the specifically your EMF detection setup. Because I know that acronyms changed, I didn't want to ruin it. But I'm going to put up a graphic of you actually holding the device that you had at the Shanley.
I have to mention real quick, half my cooking staff is in the
chat room.
She was in charge of
Mary?
Yeah, it was her fault for the meatballs and sausage. Just saying.
Yeah, it turns out that the lost sausage was indeed the missing link.
Yes. Ba-doom. Yes. Could you explain to everybody exactly what we're looking at on that graphic with, and exactly what you're holding and why it is set up the way it is?
Well, there's this guy that's kind of weird that has the leather hat and the vest and stuff and the camouflage pants. He fell to Earth like about 59 years ago. Now, the device is, I call it the REMFD. Actually, Paul Browning called it that, and the name kind of stuck, but it's the Rountree Electromagnetic Field Detector.
Oh, great. The price just went up $100.
That's not funny. Anyway, what it is it's a handheld oscilloscope that is sort of velcroed onto a dowel and a platform with a EMF sensor on the front of it and a flashlight. And what that allows us to do is to not just see what the level of EMF is, but it also lets us see what the waveform looks like and kind of get an idea of what frequency it's operating with. And what was kind of fascinating is we used it to actually test Eric's EMF pump.
Yeah.
Which was kind of eye-opening because we found out just exactly how far you could read it from.
Yeah, we sure did. And what kind of waveform, when they ran together, they produced, too.
Yeah, it was kind of neat. That was a lot of fun. And we had some encounters up on the 3rd floor as well that were of a paranormal nature that left quite an unusual signature that we have associated with a disembodied consciousness in the past. So it was actually kind of a fun thing. But that is what we were looking at. It is the Rountree EMF detector.
Well, and the
everything that I do, Paul Browning puts Rountree in front of it. You know, I think so I get credit for it, which is kind of nice for Paul.
Yeah.
And so the price goes up.
Right. I think Paul's going to I think he's going to get that proton pack, and it's actually going to have all of those components in it.
Well, I think it's going to be working the next time we see him. He's actually going to capture something and lock it up. So, but yeah, Paul has been a great asset to Spirit Lab. I mean, he is a great PR person. He's gone out. He's made demo videos of some of the stuff we do. He duplicates a lot of the work we do here at the lab. And he's an associate of Spirit Lab. So, I mean, his research is very important to the research we're doing because he is getting confirmation of some of the things we're doing. Of course, the more you get of that, the stronger your, case is for what the hell you're talking about. Right. Which is always a good thing in this field.
It's an unusual thing in this field. Just say it. Just say it. You might as well just say it because it truly is, because you can't throw a stick and not hit somebody that believes in an orb, and that's sad. It truly is.
Well, it's not that there's no such thing as orbs. It's that they're very rare and require very specialized detection equipment to find them. And they're really not Aunt Millie. They're basically a byproduct of the conduit that allows Aunt Millie to potentially interact with us in the first place. But yeah, it is kind of strange that we've been beating this around for years that most of these things you see in pictures are dust or particulate matter or moisture or bugs or whatever. And yet I still see people going, look at this orb. This is real. Look, it's got a smiley face in the center of it. Okay.
Or it's concentric.
Well, no, what was...
Or it's purple. It's purple.
The argument I had going with the guy back home was, well, it's geometrically perfect. They all are. They're all round circles. No, it's geometrically perfect. Okay. And after I explained to him exactly what was going on with his camera, there's snow. You're outside.
Yeah.
After about 4 other people backed me up, he finally stopped arguing.
Well, what's funny, too, is, we spent a whole lot of time, making orbs just to see what kind of different colors and we could get. And it's amazing. We used stuff like salt. We used dust bunnies picked up off the floor. We used sand. We used a lot of different things. And they all make really beautiful orbs. I mean, if you have the lighting just right and you have the distance just right from the lens, which is, within 4 inches of it, it really makes some pretty cool stuff. And you can get streaks and everything else. Like the heavier material leaves a streak when you take a picture of it. So it looks, oh, wow, look, it's like a streak of energy. No. But anyway.
But they're still all around.
They're everywhere.
Well, and
I have a theory that's better than orbs.
Uh-oh.
Ever see a coat hanger factory?
Not lately.
Think about it. They're aliens.
Oh, Lord.
Think about where they are. They're everywhere. They're at the Pentagon.
Well, see, that's why you can't trust atoms, because they make up everything.
That's right. They make molecules.
And this show's going downhill quick.
Yeah. Oh, so what were we going to talk about?
What I wanted you to kind of help me or explain, with that device detecting an EMF signature.
It's our EMF signatures.
Why is it so important to see the waveform? A lot of people don't understand that. I'm trying to make sure that the people that only have doorstops and millimeters understand why that waveform is so important.
Well, because EMF is around us all the time. It's everywhere. We have a EMF problem. In fact, the World Health Organization has labeled EMF as a major health issue in some locations. Because there's so much of it, it's unhealthy to be exposed to it. So we know we have EMF around us all the time. No big deal. Most of it is very natural. What we're looking for is EMF that's not really supposed to be there. EMF that's different. Well, we can't tell that looking at a meter, because all the meter tells us is that we have it. We have it and how strong it is. So the meter really doesn't tell you anything that you don't already know to start with. It certainly isn't any kind of proof that anything paranormal is occurring, because you can't differentiate normal EMF from
abnormal EMF
just by looking at the level. You have to look at something else. So you really need to look at that waveform. What does that waveform look like? Because that's going to tell you if you've got something that's natural or normal or not. So that's kind of why we have to see that waveform And it's not just about how strong the EMF is, or we have it over here and we don't have it over here, because simply by turning the meter a certain way, you completely change the whole way that it's reading the environment anyway. Most people don't realize that either. They think a meter is like omnidirectional. It's not.
Yeah.
Even a triaxial meter is not omnidirectional. It has 3 different directional coils, and at any given moment you could tip it up, for example, or down or whatever. You're only relying on one coil to give you input. And if you don't have a source close enough for it to pick up, you're not going to get anything. So a meter really isn't going to tell you a whole lot to prove something's paranormal. In fact, it's not really going to tell you anything to prove something's paranormal. How we have to prove the EMF is abnormal is to see it, to actually look at the waveform and say, oh, hey, look at this, this looks like a heartbeat, or, this looks like some type of biofield here, or whatever. You've got to be able to differentiate it between A, background noise, which is there all the time, EMF background noise, and 2, you've got to differentiate it from like 60 cycles or 60 hertz, which is coming out of the wall in every structure in the United States that has power going to it. So the idea is to eliminate the normal, and what you've got left could be the paranormal.
Or the abnormal.
Well, we have that already. We have to be abnormal to do this in the first place.
There are days.
Yes, that's very true. And just out of curiosity, did you have any because I didn't push the right button on my recorder when I went in the room when we were at the Shanley. Did you get any collaborating evidence EVP wise?
Well, I'm told that we did, but I wasn't running audio recorders that night. I was running EMF quadrilator, and I was doing a demo on that, and I was also running the handheld EMF detector. So the other person that was with me was recording EVPs. And I understand that that person did get some EVPs. However, I haven't heard any of them or seen the evidence or anything of that.
Okay, well,
so maybe that would be an interview for you to do as a follow-up to see if any EVPs were actually captured.
I can
well, we're dancing around this subject kind of nicely, aren't we?
I think we've done quite well.
1, 2, 3, turn. 1, 2, 3, turn.
Let me go ahead and completely get off of that train track, and we'll go ahead and put up this graphic. This is actually a picture from the room that you had the quadrilator set up, and actually one of the devices you can't see. There's one in each corner of the room, basically.
Right. That's correct.
And basically, correct me if I'm wrong, basically each one is a very large coil that is shielded on one end.
Yeah, it's actually in a parabolic reflector that's made out of moo metal. So it's very, very directional. In other words, it's only picking up EMF directly in front of the opening in that little cup that's on the top there.
Order up.
So it's very directional. There's 4 sensors. How it works is that each of those sensors is looking at a part of the room from a different direction. If EMF emerges into that room, we can see it in all 4 sensors. And depending on how strong that signal is in each sensor, we can figure out exactly what spot of the room the emergence point is, which, as you know, because you were there and experienced it, was very, very cool. Because it allowed you to sit right in the middle of the emergence point, which was very, very cool.
So they're not pointing directly at each other?
Well, they're sort of all pointing towards the center of the room, is how we did it.
Well, I just asked because you could see 2 of them, and they kind of looked like they were pointing directly at each other, but maybe not.
No, they were pointing. All 4 corners were the corners diagonal would be pointing at each other. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure if they were directly pointing at each other or just slightly off to where you could get a little bit.
Pretty much coming there. That just gives the coverage in the middle of the room, correct? That's the only way to get full coverage.
Well, it covers the full room because the field that it measures comes out, kind of like a cone shape is how it measures. But what that does is it allows us to cover as much of the room as possible with the 4 sensors so that we can locate stuff inside the room. I need my hands to talk too, obviously, because, if you cut my hands off, I wouldn't be able to speak. But that's the same thing. I mean, we position those to get the greatest coverage of the room from 4 different sensors. And that way we could locate physically in the room where the EMF was emerging from. And it changed during the evening. The actual emergence point shifted around a little bit. It kind of oscillated some. And that was also the room where the famous ghost cat was videotaped, which is another whole story. But,
yeah. And
hey, the ghost cat is cool.
And it was a very interesting, the time that I was in that room, inside that, while that was operating, and you were...
Yes, Eric, let me turn the tables around on you. So, tell us, Eric, how was it when you were inside that room?
It was different because, and not to get all woo-woo about it, but David would call into the room, Eric, it's above your left shoulder. And I could basically reach my hand back, and I would, for no other way of explaining it, I would be reaching into an emerging EMF field. And if you want to get
it's
all
like
woo,
you were literally putting your hand in a wormhole.
Right. And what was interesting was there was a balloon in the floor. There's no airflow on that floor. We can all attest to that.
Right.
And I would point my hand at the balloon, and the balloon would start going back and forth. I even channeled that through another person who pointed at the balloon, and the balloon started going back and forth. So that whole, there's something to it. For that thing to stay static and not moving, and then just to have somebody pointing at it, and I know the people are going to say, oh, well, you did this big hand motion. No, I'm just talking about laying your hand down at a slow velocity where you're not moving enough air to move a balloon, and pointing at it, and 3 foot away, the balloon starts rocking.
Well, and there are people that will say, well, it was static electricity on your body, but I would point out that you guys were motionless for a long time, and basically sitting cross-legged on a bare wood floor. So the chances of you generating any electrostatic field on your body was pretty minimal.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly dry up there. It was fairly humid.
And it was warm.
It was warm. It was humid. I don't think we had a problem with static field generation because nobody was getting shocked touching any doorknobs. I mean, it was pretty obvious there wasn't a lot of static energy around, and we weren't getting any electrostatic energy to speak of in the environment measuring it.
Right. And
what we were getting, which was
radiation?
a very interesting discovery, was gamma radiation, and lots of it.
Yeah. And we've made a point here at PEN as people, as we've interviewed people and talked to different people throughout the field, we've tried to pass that story on about going and getting those little stamp dose meters.
Yeah.
To make sure that you can measure your exposure to it.
Absolutely. I mean, I started thinking about the deaths from cancer that we have had in just the last 5 years, and I started putting 2 and 2 together, and I'm thinking, if these people investigate a lot, and many of these people who passed away were very active investigators, what if this radiation was a contributing factor to their cancer? And it could very well be the case. Because we were seeing extraordinary levels of gamma radiation occur as a spike. It wasn't a continuous amount of radiation, but those spikes were going off pretty rapidly at one point. And we had some pretty high-level radiation occurring. At one point, we had 350 millirads per hour spikes of radiation, which is pretty intense. And getting you guys out of there after a while to take a break from that was very difficult because you guys were very comfortable and felt like you were just like in paradise.
Well, see, that's something else I think we ought to talk about, the MF pumps, because mine are actually MF pumps, because they're not electric.
Right.
They're battery powered.
As he scoots off screen.
They are magnetic field pumps, but the rotation creates a varying magnetic field.
Correct.
So it looks like EMF, but it's really not.
And what we found was that those 2 detectors, or those 2 pumps that I have, would generate at about, running together simultaneously, I think it was 26 hertz.
Yeah, it was right around 26 hertz, I think we figured out. we got a pretty stable readout. It would go between 25 and 27, but it was right in the ballpark.
And the reason why that becomes important or notable is when we were inside the fields of the quadrilator, and you were calling that out, we also discovered that the occurrence of those EMFs also generated about it was between 2 hertz and 12.
Yeah, we were having quite a range of fluctuation depending on the time of day and night that we were looking at it. But when you guys were actually in the room, yeah, that was pretty much the range we were going through. And what was so neat was looking on the side and seeing all that data as it was happening. We were looking at the frequencies passing through. We were looking at the levels. I mean, all the data readout was like right there on the side of the screen. It was so cool.
Right, and I mean that's. You haven't had the chance to go out with the Mach 2 version yet, have you?
We haven't used the new sensors yet. The device is pretty much the way it was when we tested it at the Shanley. Now I've got new sensors that I'm working on, but I'm probably going to put those sensors in a Mu Metal box to use for psychometry experiments and or to study psychic and mediums. Because one of the things I want to start doing is putting a medium in the detection field of all 4 of those detectors and monitor them from the time that they're just normal through a period where they're communicating and getting information back to being normal again, and document that process and what is in the environment around the medium. Because we've already seen where we've got emerging information adjacent to a medium when they're getting information. I want to really seriously map that out.
They'll also be able to, eventually, you would think that would get where you could have a test. Somebody claims to be something, you give them this test.
Exactly. I mean, the goal would be to be able to certify people as being legitimate, being real, that actually have capabilities based on this emerging information and documenting this emerging information coming to them at the same time they're getting information and relating it. What would be cooler still is if we could literally translate that information some way or another, kind of like, when you turn on your radio, you pick up the broadcast from the RF, you hear the music instead of the RF.
Right.
It'd be neat to pull the information riding on this waveform off the same way, but we're a long ways away from doing something like that, but it's possible. I mean, I can see where it'd definitely be possible to do that someday, depending on what format that information is in. Let
me throw this out there for everybody so they'll have a little better understanding if they weren't there or didn't hear about us at the Lower Catskills. Graphic I'm putting up is just going to show the setup that you were using to record, with the signal processor in the middle. Yeah, 3 laptops.
Yeah, that's it. It's like a master console there. It's literally 3 laptops that are doing everything. The laptop in the center is only monitoring radiation, gamma radiation, radioactivity. Mm-hmm. The laptop on the left is the actual data logger for the EMF sensors.
Right.
And the laptop on the right is the control laptop for the equipment. It's literally looking at the digital signal processor and allowing me to adjust different parameters, complete from filtration. If I had something I wanted to filter out, I could filter it out very specifically. Like if I wanted to filter out 1 hertz, for example, I could take 1 hertz out of the mix. Or 322.5 hertz, I could take that out of the mix. I mean, I could take very specific interfering frequencies out of the mix with this device, so interference is not a problem. I can eliminate the interference, essentially electronically. And there's other things that were involved too. We were also recording audio at the time. What was interesting is that the gamma radiation level was so high, it wiped the SIMS cards in the recorders.
Really?
Yeah. The SIM cards were completely unformatted, which means they were literally erased. There was no formatting on the SATA card. and both cards were formatted and had been tested prior to running the device. Once that wormhole opened up, the radiation got so intense, it wiped the SIM card. I mean, it wiped the SATA cards. And how I knew it wiped the cards was there was no formatting on the cards anymore. So it literally wiped the card clean. There was no formatting.
But that should also give verification and give people a reason why, if you've ever been in a very active location and you know you've just put fresh batteries in something or whatever, and you know you've had the memory, you could have very well, because of the situation, the situation erased your stuff. It wasn't.
That's correct, and that's also what will cause a battery to go dead. Gamma radiation will cause a battery to go dead. Now, a rechargeable battery is more susceptible to it. So a rechargeable battery may go completely dead while it's in that gamma radiation field, but you may come out of that field and go downstairs, and all of a sudden your battery is fully charged again. Mm-hmm. So, people think, oh my God, this is so weird. The ghost is draining the energy to use it. No, the ghost isn't draining anything. Gamma radiation is rendering the battery useless while it's in that field. So once it comes out of that gamma radiation field, the battery will sometimes return to normal. Sometimes it stays dead, depending on how intense that gamma radiation field was.
Yeah. And people need to understand, too, gamma radiation, you're only going to block it with 6 inches of lead or 6 feet of concrete.
Right. And we were noting that I was in just as much danger as you guys were in the other room, because it was just as intense where I was. Because we had radiation meters in the room with you, and we had it in the room with me, and my meter was, doing the same thing the meter in the room you guys were in was doing. So the walls were not helping whatsoever.
Well, and just so people know how seriously David took all this, his last statement to me and the other person that were in the room was, "Get out of the room now, or you're gonna start glowing."
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean,
we left.
The closest way I could come to it was to say, in the last hour, you've had the equivalent of like 40 X-rays.
Right.
And then that kind of brings it home.
Yeah.
So, it was intense.
I don't think you want to glow like that.
And there's actually you guys have a very good video of the demo that night, where we actually walked through how the equipment worked, and then we have a video captured of us measuring your EM pump and everything else. So I mean, you actually do have an archived video from that night, which is I thought it was very informative. And I every once in a while put that link out for people to look at. So,
and we appreciate that. And that was made by Shannon
Shannon Ray
of MGPI. That's who. She's one of our show hosts on Tuesday night on Paranormal Minds. But the one thing that I wish we'd gotten on video, David, that I don't think there's on video anywhere, is when you actually convinced us to leave, you measured the waveform coming off of myself and the other person. You measured you measured that, and would you tell everybody what it resembled?
It resembled a human biofield, only it was way, way stronger. It literally was very similar to what we've associated with a print of a disembodied consciousness. And it was literally all over y'all like white on rice.
Right.
So when you came out of that field of influence, or what I like to call a paranormal singularity, you had it all over you. I mean, both of you did. Well, both of the individuals, you and the other person, are very gifted people. I mean, you're a gifted person, and she's a gifted person. So it's only natural that when y'all came out, y'all had residual energy from that encounter. Mm-hmm. And we were able to literally see that residual energy on both of y'all.
You're gifted.
So it was kind of an interesting evening. I thought we had quite a lot of important breakthroughs that night. And it was important because we had a lot of different people witness it. It's not like I'm just saying this is what we did. You were there, 20 other people were there. Everybody was a key part of it because it was I was giving a presentation. So everyone was there for the presentation. Everyone got to witness everything. So we really had like 20 independent witnesses that had witness experiences of what was measured and what was encountered. And I think it was really a great evening in that aspect. And the fact that we captured it on video was even greater.
And I think this
Sorry,
all
I'm really like sick.
this also goes to speak to the fact that Kim set up a convention where there was no drama. There was nothing but inside that, of those people inside that building, there was no negative energy. There was no naysayers. There wasn't people walking around going, "Oh, look what they're doing." It's not like, it wasn't like that. It was a very community type feeling within inside of that building, and I personally think that had a lot to do with the fact that the activity that you measured was raised to the point to where it is.
Well,
I think so too.
another thing I think was really beneficial is David and I decided, instead of him just doing a regular speech or lecture or whatever, he had nothing to do all day except for hang out and eat and play around until the last 30 minutes. And then he simply explained to anybody interested, whoever was there, the equipment and what it was used for, and then you all went straight upstairs.
And we did a complete demonstration on site, actually investigating, and then continued into an investigation for the rest of the evening from it.
Right.
So it was like a launch pad, and it was all serious people. Everybody was like into the investigative part as well. It became a question and answer session all night long, which was great.
And
we had
into
a lot
the
of,
next day.
they did the whole weekend, which was fine because we ran the equipment for 3 days solid, 24/7, and gathered data that entire time. And what was fascinating is that we had wormhole activity last for over 7.5 hours that Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
I had never seen a wormhole phenomena last that long. And what's kind of vital about that is for 7.5 hours, there was a tremendous amount of gamma radiation bombarding that entire house. And, we discussed the health issues, people living there, and, we can't help but think that this radiation that's occurring over and over again on a regular basis isn't a contributory factor to their health issues.
It's true.
And we told them that.
Mm-hmm.
So they could get it checked out with their own physician. So I think the weekend was kind of tremendous. It was kind of an atmosphere that let me do a practical presentation instead of just to stand up and talk about stuff. We actually did a practical, hands-on. People were able to play with stuff. They were able to look at stuff. They were actually seeing phenomena occur and how it was looking data-wise as it was occurring. I just thought it was a great event for the people that were there to experience that. And everybody that was there told me afterwards it was like the best situation they'd ever been in because they were able to see things going on and then correlate it with data readout of that activity.
Well, and there was no break. It wasn't like you talked at 2 o'clock and then the investigation was at 9. It was from 8:30. It was game on the rest of the night.
Yeah, I mean, we started with it and just kept on going, until people dropped.
Well, and it just, like I said, it speaks to Kim's ability to plan an event. She did a great job.
It was, and we kind of like all kind of did it on the fly too, because with everything else, things happen and change things around and things run over and all this. But I think the way it worked out was just great.
Yep.
I would like to do something like that again, in fact, because that's a rare situation when you can do something and walk right in to an investigative process from a demonstration without shifting gears and just have everything going and have everybody suddenly become part of an investigation after a presentation. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And to speak to, you had asked me earlier, what was it like being inside that room? And I want to make sure, because I know there's a lot of people out there that have done the Ganzfeld before. I've done the Ganzfeld 6 or 7 times personally. But when you do the gonzo or any, I can only assume any type of sensory deprivation experiment,
Right.
you get the only way I can describe it is you get a buzz in your head, in your brain. Your brain is feels more alive simply because it's forcing itself to use parts of itself that it hasn't had to use. You get the same kind of feeling coming out of that room that night, which was, so everybody knows, it's room 13 at the Shanley.
End of the hall. You
End of
walk
the hall.
straight into it. Perfectly square room. The only perfectly square room on the floor.
Yeah.
But what was fascinating too is you know, I got the information from the person that was with me at the event that it would be room 13, and we had no idea what room 13 was, or if there even was a room 13.
Right.
And it turns out she was right. So,
Yeah.
you know, there were a lot of very good and collaborating things that occurred during that weekend. So I would have to say that the whole thing, to me, was a complete success as far as having fun-wise, as far as meeting people-wise, as far as information-wise, as far as data-wise, evidence-wise. The whole thing was just like a great, great experience. And I think it was great for everybody that came.
Real quick, would you please explain what moo metal is? And that no, there were no cows harmed in the making of this metal.
All right, I just asked. God.
Yeah, moo metal is a special kind of alloy that blocks an electric field. Well, what that does is it takes the electric field off of an electromagnetic field and it blocks it so that there's no propagation. In other words, an electric field is a static field. A magnetic field is a static field. It's only when you combine them together that you have a dynamic field that actually has frequency. So by taking one away, you're effectively blocking electromagnetic radiation from the backside of the processor. So anything that the sensor is in, if it's covered with moo metal, then no EMF is going to come in and interfere with what you're looking at. So it allows you to make a very directional sensor that can look at a very specific segment of the room. And by overlapping those segments, you get full coverage of a room from 4 different directions.
Okay, then why do you call it moo metal?
It stands for MU, and it has to do with magnetic units,
Got it.
or the level of magnetic units it isolates.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's not how it sounded.
No, it sounds like MOO.
Yes.
Yeah,
Or-
but it's
or
actually MU.
or-
is what it's
Or
called.
you're missing the N and it's moon metal. It's, you know?
Right.
That's what you need to do, David. Get some little cloth tails.
Like, can we roll it and smoke it, man? Like, I'm ready.
Have you could you tell everybody why it's so important for what we discovered and what happened at the Shanley? Really, why is that so important to what the field is going through and what people are? Because people, I think, are at a cusp right now that they want to know more. They want to ask the hard questions: the how, the when, why. And
Well, you were there.
I was there.
What was your impression being there and experiencing it? I think that's a more accurate answer to the question than me sitting here spouting to you what I would have liked to have seen carried away from it. What did you physically get from being there? What was your experience in being a part of that whole process?
Like I said, not to get too woo woo about it, but I was touching the other side, man. You know how often in your life do you get to do that?
Why it's important is because we're not sitting here and making blanket declarations based on, the feathery realms or woo-woo-ness. We're sitting here and we're saying we've got hard, demonstrable environmental alterations. Mm-hmm. And these alterations are occurring simultaneously with intense personal experiences, the emergence of information, and other associated paranormal events that are being personally experienced as well as being documented by various types of things from cameras to sensory equipment. So is it important? Yes, because what we're doing is we're saying, hey, this is really what's happening. Hey, this is what's happening to the environment. It's not like these ghosts are trapped here all the time. Something is opening and closing and allowing them to come and go. So the whole notion that these people are trapped here and they can't leave, we've kind of figured and proved that that's not the case. They're actually coming and going on a regular basis, depending on that conduit opening and closing.
And there were no demons.
So we're learning answers to the questions.
Right.
Well, and apparently their little doorway was open for 7.5 hours on Saturday because they were busy.
It was a
well,
revolving door.
and that was not the only place where these things were happening. We just happened to only be measuring that one spot.
Right.
Other places on the floor were just as active with other things going on. So you got to figure there was a lot of radiation up there.
Oh yeah. Have you got plans to test the second one?
Well,
or anytime soon, or anything you can talk about?
Well, the thing that we're doing now is I've set up the second one to do like psychometry research and also to do medium research. But I mean, it's sitting on end in the back here. I don't even know if you can kind of sort of see it. I don't know if you can. It's actually sitting right here. I can kind of tip it up because I am still kind of working on it. But if I can find, everything has a zipper.
I'm not going to touch that one, David.
I know, but I mean, it's just like I like the whole zipper idea. But essentially, here it is. I mean, this is the new one. I'm using, in the original one, I used a London Blue digital signal processor.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Blue 100. This one is a Blue 16, which is a little bit more sophisticated and has a lot more power than the Blue 100 has. So we're looking to really try to analyze what goes on with a medium and really try to analyze the whole concept of psychometry. Is there something to it? My big holdback on the psychometry research right now is mu metal, which is extraordinarily expensive. And it's probably going to be sometime after the holidays before I hobble together the money to create the enclosure. But the experiments on mediums is going to start taking place directly after the holidays. We just appointed a new director of psychic medium empath research, Sylvia Rossi, who is a very well-known medium in this area. She's been on her own radio show. She's been on several TV projects. Very good friend of mine as well. We're going to begin research with her. And we have several other mediums that we are going to start running this research on to try to get as many numbers and different people in the database as possible so that we can sit there and go, yeah, well, now we've checked 30 mediums and they all have the same thing going on. Right. Regardless of their sex or their age or, their creed, color, religion, whatever, we will be able to sit there and say, okay, we tested 30 mediums, and these 30 mediums got their stuff. It's amazing because the people that are phony don't want to have anything to do with it. Mm-hmm. So we don't have to worry about getting false information because nobody's stepping forward.
Well, and
is it genuine so far?
I've been saying since we talked about this in May, there's going to be a whole list of mediums. They're going to, after they get tested and you are able to prove that there is activity around them when they are communicating and there is a flow of information, like you said, maybe someday in our great-grandkids' future, they'll be able to decipher that stuff. But there's going to be a whole list.
I'm very optimistic about that being possible, particularly with the power of computers 10 or 20 years from now. It may be possible to decipher it. The more we know about how the human brain receives information and can learn how to mimic that process and study it in a medium and be able to reproduce it artificially, any of that could come into play in order to do this. What's important, I think, in our lifetime, or at least in in this aspect of my research is to be able to associate this phenomena with the medium as proof positive that the medium is genuine. That's my goal experimentally to do with it, so that we could literally say this is a certified genuine medium based on this testing, protocol that we've come up with.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think that's going to be the next big, where the next big advancement comes from?
I'm very popular.
Is studying the researcher, the effect the researcher has on the environment. Is that going to be an area of focus in the future, or should be?
Well, we're doing that now to a certain degree. Like, we are wiring our investigators. We're, at least for sound right now, we've started thinking about making a little biopack that a person wears that's monitoring their temperature, their skin conductivity, 5 or 6 different parameters of the person. So, everything takes money, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
It takes a lot of money to design these things, because you're designing them at a prototypical level. I mean, nobody has this on the shelf. You don't go out and buy it from Walmart for $29.95. You have to sit down, develop it, make it work, and make it fit into a comfortable package that allows the investigator to use it in an unhindered fashion to be able to do their function. But it also has to produce viable data that we can come back and download and then go over and analyze. So we're starting to look at that aspect of it. We're also starting to do brainwave analysis on mediums while they're getting information as well, which is another kind of interesting thing, to document what their brain is actually doing while all this is going on. And that's not cheap either. So, it comes down to the more money you have, the more you can do. And the last couple of years has been pretty lean at the old Spirit Lab here. So we've been hobbling along doing the best we can with what we've got to work with. But we're hoping in the future that will improve, and that we will really start getting back in the swing of things and making some more cool discoveries about what's really going on in the paranormal.
Well, you guys ever decide to run it, the Quadrilator 2, just, if you need any bait, let me know. I'll do what I can to get up there.
Well, we're definitely going to wire you up, Eric.
It's a lot of wire, David.
It may be that I come to Texas and wire you up before it's over.
We can make that happen.
I mean, it's looking real good, like I may be moving to Texas before long. So.
Well, it's warmer than New Jersey.
Well, it is warmer than New Jersey. I need a place to build the lab, or at least set up the lab in a conducive environment. Texas has a great economy. I will say that. It's not so far away from Florida that I can't get there in 10 or 12 hours.
Right. So
that's good.
Yeah.
It beats the 18 it takes me now to get there. So, I have a love interest there, now.
David, you said you weren't going to tell Eric about us.
Well, that is exactly the truth there. But anyway. So yeah, I'm actually seeing someone down in in a very similar area as to where I was interested before. But it's funny how things work.
Yeah, but that's only like 3 hours from here.
Yeah. Which is
I'm just saying. I mean, you guys are up like in the Dallas area, right?
No, we're actually over by Shreveport.
Oh, so you're still not that far. Yeah, about 3 hours, about a 3 hour drive up there. Yeah, because this is down in southeast Texas. So.
We're in East Texas, but we're like 45 minutes straight over from Shreveport.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not sure if I'm going to be in the Houston area or down towards the coast more. I mean, not real sure yet about any of that, but that may be the target location. I would say.
You do know they say Houston is the New Jersey of the South.
Well, I wouldn't want to live in Houston. Let's make that perfectly clear.
I wouldn't want you to live in Houston either. I've been there.
Lived somewhere a bit south of it, maybe, or southeast of it, maybe. But
and David, I know it does have the funny picture on it. I do have the link up to the Spirit Lab, SPI or spinvestigations.org.
I love the pictures. But, you know.
Well, he says that's your before and after coffee shots.
Yeah, that's a good one. You know, that is good, before and after.
Well,
yeah.
you know, I want people.
The one on my left that I'm looking at is definitely a before a shot.
That's what I was laughing at when the show first opened. It's like, what is that picture?
Yeah, that was in my office before coffee.
Yeah.
Literally. That is literally a BC picture.
Before coffee.
Exactly.
Before coffee. That's right.
Well, David.
So, man, I think we're out of time.
Well, we own the place. We can run as long as we want to, but but yes, we as popular as you seem to be, I see we need to let you mosey along tonight, and you better get used to using that word too if you're coming this way.
You know, I am getting this stimulation from my telephone here on a regular basis. But definitely want to get. This will be a good show to pass around too when the archive comes out. So let me know the link.
As soon as we get it uploaded, I'll shoot it your way. And thank you.
Shoot it my way, and I'll be sure to distribute it. And you know, it's always fun talking to you guys.
Yeah, we're pretty cool.
Yeah, sometimes. But David, have a great Christmas.
Have a Merry Christmas. Happy Yule.
Yeah, you guys have a Merry Christmas too, and a Happy New Year.
And we shall. And to everybody out there,
be safe.
Yes.
Because there's crazy people out there on the road.
Yeah, and I got homemade fancy moonshine for Christmas, so you never know.
That's right. That's right. You have high octane.
We'll have a high octane Christmas. Oh wow.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a great holiday, and we will see you next Friday.
Sure, why not?
Sure, why not?
Yep. Good night, everybody.
Night.
Hey, this is Brother Mike. Well, there's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights. 'Cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the teams, let's get started. Hey, this is your big brother Mike calling. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights. 'Cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. That's right. Go get 'em, boys.
Welcome everybody to PEMA TV.
Welcome to Friday. I can't tell you the date because I can't see the clock.
Oh,
there it is. December 20th, 2013. Wow, 5 more days.
5 more days till Christmas.
4 more shopping days.
And before anybody else makes any kind of rude comments in the chat room, yes, it will grow back. So don't worry about it.
He looks 12.
I don't look 12. I look 22.
He looks 12.
And I'm actually only 23, so that's all good. But with 5 days left, you better hurry and get over to
Metaluna Boutique and Stones.com.
Would you like to explain to the people what that lovely piece of attire is that they're looking at?
That is a really cute peach and black dress.
Yeah.
It's like a mini skirt, but it's got the long back. It's really cute.
So head on over to MetallunaBoutiqueandStones.com.
And it's reasonable. It's not Dillard's $96 for a dress prices. It's $24.
And the shop is run by a witch.
Well, change the first letter. Yeah.
And don't forget, everybody, if you know anybody that has a radio show, we now have a radio page here on PEN. If they'd like to have another place to broadcast, tell them to get in touch with us. Things they are changing. But tonight we are joined by a very good friend that we haven't talked to in about a year. We've seen him.
No, it was May when we were together up in...
I know, but interviewed on the show. It's been about a year.
If you say so.
Well, I mean, May, yeah, okay. Okay, in May.
a shadow on the wall that looks like a man. Lord, that lamp just moved on that stand. I got movement in the cellars, I got footsteps in the hall. There's no time to waste, I better make some calls. I gotta get ready, make everything right, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. Hey, round up the team, let's get started. Hey, this is Brother Mike. There's a party and you're invited. We got the camera set, let's turn off these lights, 'cause all my rowdy friends are goes hunting tonight. This old house has a long history. It should be real good for activity. And we got the house wired for sound and got motion alarms setting all around. Got a box full of batteries ready to go, and everyone's itching to start this show. Got our logo tees, driving black SUVs, and that one bald guy with a slick goatee. Hey, round up the team. Let's get started.
Of the people that were involved.
And nobody walked away hungry.
No, that's for sure.
Oh no, God, I ate so much while I was there. I was just looking at my interview on Grayson's show prior to this. It was maybe a couple of months afterwards that we did that interview, and I was like a chunk, man. And it was all because of the food at the Shanley. I had this big basketball in the front under my shirt. It was terrible.
Hey, how many events do you go to where they feed everybody there?
Oh, and fed way more than you can possibly eat and still have food left over. I mean, the food was great. I mean, it was great.
Kim's from Missouri.
Kim's from home cooking. Mm-hmm. It was good. I gained like 5 pounds over the entire weekend. Enough said. Took me 3 months to get back to normal. Okay.
Kim's from Missouri. Kim's from Missouri. They don't know anything about portion control in that state. Trust me.
Oh, I didn't have any problem with portion control either, so can't really say anything.
Hey, Grandma raised me. You got people coming in, you feed them, and you keep feeding them until they can't eat no more, and then you give them 3 more bites.
Well, that's what we did. We ate until we hurt, and we ate some more. So,
David, you know, a lot of people, and just so to catch up some of the viewers that may not be part of the Spirit Board or have been following what you and Paul Browning have been working on with the specifically your EMF detection setup, because I know that acronyms changed. I didn't want to ruin it. But I'm going to put up a graphic of you actually holding the device that you had at the Shanley.
I have to mention real quick, half my cooking staff is in the
chat room.
She was in charge of
Mary?
Yeah, it was her fault for the meatballs and sausage. Just saying.
Yeah, it turns out that the lost sausage was indeed the missing link.
Yes. Ba-doom. Yes. Could you explain to everybody exactly what we're looking at on that graphic with, and exactly what you're holding and why it is set up the way it is?
Well, there's this guy that's kind of weird that has the leather hat and the vest and stuff and the camouflage pants. He fell to earth.
Hey, but I mean on PEMA TV. He's been on the network, it's not PEMA.
Yeah, he was on Yakking with the Yeti. Okay.
Yeah.
I will give you that.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that for us. We were all confused.
And he's in the Arctic cold, apparently. We're sitting at like 80 degrees today.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But we are joined tonight by one of the founders, is that correct, of the Spirit Lab. We are joined by David Rountree. David, what hasn't David done?
What is with that picture?
Well, I thought it would give a good, you want your guests, your viewers, to get the full representation of your guest, and I wanted them to see from before coffee and after coffee.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was shooting for there. So, David, how are you?
He's still staring at that picture.
I think I'm okay. I've been kind of sick, but I got better. I'm trying not to cough up a hairball or anything. How are you guys? Gosh, I haven't seen you since like May.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, no, we've been doing fine.
We were at the Shanley, right?
Yeah, that possibly active location there at the Shanley.
Yeah, slightly, possibly, almost, maybe, positively active. Yeah, I remember.
It could be there.
The one that would not let anybody escape.
Yeah, it was like the Hotel California.
It was. I mean,
we couldn't leave.
Right?
And it wasn't just like you. It was.
No, the porch had some kind of spell on it. You got out there and you sat on the porch and you just stayed.
Well, it wasn't even that. I mean, he took Patty to the airport. The airport
no one could leave. That's right.
The airport spit her back at us. So we take Jody to the airport. It spits him back at us.
God, I remember that.
Amy was supposed to leave that morning to go to work and wound up in the hospital and had to come back and couldn't leave for a week. You guys were leaving at noon, and at 2 a.m. the next morning, you're still there. Nobody could leave.
And we weren't flying out. We were driving. That tells you something right there.
It would not let anybody leave.
No, it was, that was the most peaceful, I think, show I've ever done in my life. I mean,
well, thank you.
It was very active, and we had a lot of activity, and I actually had a great time. Really, that was the first full tilt boogie field test of the EMF quadrilator, so that was really cool. But the whole atmosphere was just so laid back, and everybody it was like a big family gathering more than it was a convention. It was really kind of cool.
We had, at one point, 40 people in the Shanley, and everybody got along. There was no...
Yeah, it was very peaceful. I mean, seriously, there was no drama. There was no arguing. I mean, just everybody was like, it was like everybody was stoned,
Yeah, well,
hey, how are you, man?
There was a very minuscule, tiny teaspoonful of drama.
But that was not part of our event. That was someone who tried to come in.
And it got escorted to the door by me and Sal very quickly.
Right. That was a gate crasher. So
That's right. That was not part of my crowd.
Yeah.
A saboteur.
And then it didn't work.
Sacre bleu. Yeah, it did work.
Well, and the worst part is the only place the guy wanted to go was to David's bedroom.
That's something you got to think about.
I'm trying not to.
That was kind of strange.
It's very disturbing to me to think about.
That was the entire fight. The argument the whole night is he kept wanting to get into your bedroom, and I refused to let him.
I know, that was crazy.
Yeah. But before we talk the Shanley to death, there's a lot of stuff that happened for us there. I know I'm half Texan Italian, I think. The one thing I think I want everybody to be able to sure and take away from the experience that everybody had at the Shanley is that it speaks to the quality of the people and the character of the people that are involved in the paranormal, because there are a lot of conventions that are full of drama.
Oh, yeah.
And I just want to speak right now to the fact that we didn't have, there just wasn't any of that there. And that just speaks to the quality of the people that were there. And if you're curious, you can type in Lower Cass Coast Paracon and you can go see who was there.
All of us.
Yeah. I mean, people just need to know that. It's about the character.